Hello and welcome to Chapter 8, Building Trust. Today I'm joined by a good friend, Renee Rehfeldt, who is the Director of Professional Learning and Development at the Canadian Academy of Kobe. Renee, could you please tell us a little about yourself?
Hi, I'm Renee Rehfeldt. I've been an international teacher for 15 years now. Worked in the US for 13 years before that. Spanish teacher and history teacher by training, but now I specialize in adult professional learning and working with leadership teams and mid-level leaders and adult workshops.
So today, what we're really talking about is this idea of building trust. And what I advocate for is that, it has to happen at the beginning of the year, but it's also something that has to be maintained throughout the year. So kind of just getting right into that topic, we both started the school years and either as teachers or facilitators trying to encourage team building, but for whatever reason, there's always an excuse or a reason why team leaders or teams, it might sound like a good idea, but they don't always engage in it. What are some of the obstacles that we have to overcome to get teams to do this critical team building? And what are some solutions to help them navigate those obstacles?
One of the first obstacles that comes up, regardless of how old or new a team is, the idea that team building isn't professional, or we don't need this, or we're already a good team, we don't need to do any of these activities. I think a reminder of what a good team feels like when it's running well is sometimes a good reminder. A team that doesn't do team building activities at the start of the year or who is struggling, everybody knows what that feels like. So if we give it a go, if you give it a try, most teams reflect and say, yeah, that was a good idea. Also, I'd say practice. Most of these protocols or activities or engagements, if you've never done them before, they don't always go right the first time. So if you've ever done visible thinking routines, you know how that feels in a classroom. It's no different with adults in a team. The first time you do the 3-card quote or the first time you do another protocol, it feels awkward. It doesn't feel like it's going right. Practice, perseverance, laugh at yourself, be vulnerable. I think personally, sometimes it actually helps build trust if you can laugh at a mistake or pause and say, let's rewind, let's do that one again, that didn't work. In some ways, that helps build the team because nobody's perfect and it's not always going to go right the first time.
Yeah. And, you raised really good points there because there is that sort of awkwardness in doing something that is largely prescribed. Even in my book, I talk about the dangers of prescribing something, but there I am prescribing activities, right? Authentics really got to be something that you believe in its purpose and you yourself have faith and trust in it, and your team has trust in you to facilitate it. So that facilitation note, incredibly important. You have a lot of experience with PLCs. You've done book studies with the Terry Venables model at your schools. You've gone through adaptive schools. What are some alternatives? What are some ways that leaders maybe looking outside even from my book can look for inspiration?
What I would advocate for are customizable professional learning communities. I don't know that any one model fits every school. So Solution Tree does the DeFore model of professional learning communities. Venables talks about authentic professional learning communities. There's the data-driven dialogues. I think you start with one with the idea that this is a beginning, this is a first step. And as you get more comfortable with one model, you experiment and you go and you pick something from adaptive schools or you pick something from Venables. And to some degree, you customize what works for your school. I know in one of my schools, we started with the DeFore model and it was a very rocky start. But after a couple years, we were able to personalize it and we were still doing the protocol and we were still following meeting norms. But at the same time, we weren't reading it every time because we had developed a familiarity and we'd kind of personalized things a bit.
That's great. And like again, when I kind of reflect on what you were saying there, is this idea that sometimes it's not the model itself as much as it is the fact that the team is engaging in an exploration of that model. And
Yeah.
there's a certain amount of agency then that we give our team members in determining, hey, what works well and what doesn't, and
Mm-hmm.
where else can we look and incorporate other ideas. So, whether it be a book study of this book or that Terry Venables model, like what you did at SSIS, or even like any other sort of area of inspiration, the goal should not so much be about you as a middle leader facilitating team building activities, but maybe on that first attempt, you get the team to actually make team building a project.
Yeah. And one thing I've learned throughout the process is how important it is to debrief the activity itself, debrief the protocol you just did, because that's how you reflect on, like you were saying, does this fit our team? And is it something we want to do? The next time we have a similar question, does this protocol fit us? And how did we do?
Yeah. So now, interestingly, if we do get our team on board at the beginning of the year, because we all agree, yeah, all right, let's do this. We know what can go wrong during the year. But interestingly, things will still go wrong. And then being able to rely on those norms that we set at the beginning of the year, being able to
Yes.
remember all that stuff that we did at the beginning of the year. We looking at COVID, and one of the conversations you and I just had is we might be able to carry one or two team members, having a rough time. But when the whole team starts to fray and really starts to struggle and just wants to be done with it all, can we introduce team building again?
I think we can. I think there are some protocol, particularly from School Reform Initiative. They're not the same kind of team building conversations you might have at the beginning of the year. It's no longer about setting norms, or like in chapter 8, talking about beliefs and values. These kinds of team building activities help bring out where people are at in the moment. Hopes and fears is a protocol that can be used to help team members talk to each other and really express how they're feeling. Sometimes it could be as simple as dinners or barbecues and just acknowledging each other's humanity. One thing we've started doing this year at my school here in Kobe is at the beginning of most meetings, there's a check-in. We can check in with a phone meme. Pick a picture on your phone that illustrates how you're feeling right now and explain why. There's pictures of 9 rubber duckies and which duck are you right now in various states of disrepair.
Yeah.
So different ways to check in at the beginning of a meeting can just remind ourselves that we're all human and acknowledge where each person is in the room. So yes, there are team building activities that you can do. I think they just look different from the beginning of the year activities.
One of the things that I like to call team building at mid-year is actually team health check.
Yeah.
I think it's an opportunity just to put some fingers on the pulse, see how everybody's doing, get some feedback. 3
Mhm.
questions that I love to ask are effectively, hey, what is going right? There are things that are going right. Let's just give voice to that.
Yes.
Where could we be focusing more attention, or put another way, what aren't we doing that we should be doing more of? And then, lastly, looking at what should we be trying to achieve in the next month or two? Break it down, make it smaller. Don't make it like, hey, what do we need to achieve by the end of the year? What can we just achieve this week? That's that team health check is team building in the sense that it just gives us an opportunity to revisit the importance that we have for each other. Before we close out this discussion on chapter 8, are there any final thoughts that you have?
No. One thing that came to me as I was reading it was just to reiterate how helpful and important it is to do at the beginning of every year. Even if the team thinks that we did this last year, we don't need to do it again, but everybody's at a different place in their life and their career. They had a different experience. The team is at a different stage of development. So it is important to revisit some of these team building activities at the beginning of each year and kind of make a new fresh start.
Great. Thank you so much, Renee, for your fresh perspective and also bringing in that final thought about how things are never the same. And that's why we need to always stay connected with each other, and we need to always check in to see what's driving us and what help do we need. So Renee, thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.